it's Nina. Thanks so much for joining me today for a new tutorial. And today I'm really excited because I'm sharing some inspiration with you using new stamps from Simon's Fresh Bloom release. This video is also part of a blog hop, so make sure you stop over at my blog because you'll be able to see a lot more inspiration using the new products in this release. Today I'm using the new Blossoming stamp set that I designed for Simon's Stamp, and I'm going to do some no-line coloring using an underpainting technique along with that. Now, underpainting is where you take a background that has some very subtle color and you're going to watercolor over top of that. I've already created this background, which I just used some simple pinks, yellows, and a little bit of green to add some really subtle coloring to this panel. I used a light Simon Says Stamp ink color, and I'm going to use that as the ink color for this entire image, which will help give me a guide for where to place the colors as I color in the image using watercolors from Prima and Daniel Smith. I'm using a small paintbrush. This is a size 2 brush, starting off with the leaves and the grass, so basically working with greens at the moment. On some of the areas, like the ground, I did a little bit of a stippling technique and faded some of it out, but left some of the harder stippling areas because that gave the grass a little bit of texture. For the main images, such as the leaves and the flowers, I used just one color on each image because these images are, of course, small. I didn't want to get too detailed with the coloring because there is a lot to color here, and it's going to fill in the tree really nicely, so you don't really need to get crazy with the shading. I used pinks and even a little bit of a reddish-orange color just for some variation in the tree blossoms. I also worked on the tree trunk by starting off by adding a light wash of color onto the tree trunk, and then I'll gradually add darker color to give myself a bit more contrast on this tree trunk because this is a big area of this tree, and having the tree trunk have a little bit more detail than the flowers really helps it stand out. So I was really careful and spent a bit of time working on the tree trunk and first letting myself build up that color. Here you can see we're adding in some darker areas and building up that contrast, which is giving some really nice depth and shading to this tree and gives it a lot of life. Once you have that paired with the blossoms, you can really see this entire scene start to really form, and it gives your card a lot of interest. Now let me touch back on that underpainting. You might be asking yourself, why would you even bother doing that when you're adding color right over top of your painting that you already did before? Well, first off, it's creating a background behind my tree. But second, underpainting alters the colors that you add on top. And I opted for some warmer colors because that's going to give my scene an overall warm appearance. And those pinks and greens that I added on top, and even the browns, they are translucent watercolors. So they're catching that color that's underneath and giving these colors a true warm tone, which is going to help carry the entire scene. To finish off the tree, I did add some stippling of green and pink colors just to fill in the tree as much as I wanted to. And then I also brought in some darker brown and added some little striations on the tree just to give it a little bit of texture. At this point, I'm pretty much done with the coloring. It did take a while because of the size of the image, but overall, this image may look complex, but it really was quite easy to color. I added some splatters with some of the leftover paint, and I also brought in some white distress stain to add some splatters and extra bit of texture to the scene. The white distress stain reacts with the watercolors a little bit, so it will fade back and not be perfectly bright white, but that's the look I was going for. If you want something a little bit more bold, I would definitely opt for something like an acrylic paint or other opaque white medium. I mounted my panel after cutting it with a Simon Says Stamp die and to a piece of Nina Desert Storm cardstock, and I added some twine around the top. Now, it was an afterthought, but I was like, oh no, I forgot to add a sentiment. So I carefully brought this into my MISTI and stamped one of the sentiments from the Blossoming stamp set, added some Nouveau drops using the vintage Nouveau drops. This is green. I used the rose color, and I even brought in some gloss pink color too. These just add a little bit more texture to the tree and the blossoms. For the final sentiment, you did notice I did stamp it at first, but then I decided I wanted to bring in more of that teal that I had used in the greens for the leaves on the tree. So I ended up white heat embossing the sentiment "Take Heart" onto some teal cardstock, and I popped that up over top of where I had originally stamped that sentiment. And I ended up adding it on a wonky angle just for a little bit more interest. I love how this scene turned out. It really is so beautiful with that underpainting there, adding that really great warm texture and tone to your scene. And I think it's a really fun way to be able to give your watercoloring a new look. So I hope that this has inspired you to maybe try out either no-line coloring or some underpainting, or maybe even both. If you enjoyed this video, I do hope you'll stop by my blog to get more information on the card, including still pictures, products used, and also participate in the blog hop. I'll be back again soon with more to share, but until next time, I hope you have a great day. Bye!